Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My in-laws freaked out over me not baking a ham for them on Christmas. After that, I threw away the elf on the shelf and ruined Christmas after my husband's prank. And after that, am I the jerk for answering the door to my in-laws with oily hair that's been wrapped in plastic? Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get any Christmas ham. I sure don't want the turkey, I'll tell you that much. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My in-laws freaked out over me not baking a ham for them on Christmas. I'll start this off by saying I'm a born and raised vegetarian. I've never eaten meat, let alone learn to prepare it. My husband and I are newly married and recently bought our first apartment. It's small, but it's ours, and it's across the road from his place of work, which was a bonus since he's often on call. Per his family tradition, the most recently wed couple host Christmas dinner. I initially tried to offer it to my sister-in-law as she had wanted to host the year previously, but brother-in-law married her 2 months after Christmas, so she never got the opportunity. Additionally, we are a vegetarian home, and our one-bedroom apartment isn't ideal for hosting. While my sister-in-law was thrilled, the rest of the family insisted that we had to host. I was told that as long as I got food for everyone, that it would be fine. Here's where I might be the jerk. I misunderstood. I thought this meant as long as I had enough food and made sure to accommodate food allergies that they would be happy. Christmas Day, my husband had to work until 4 p.m., so I was left preparing dinner alone, but I still put together a feast, including a plant-based roast. People started coming over and even commenting on how delicious everything smelled. Once my husband arrived, he greeted the family and joined me in the kitchen for finishing touches and taking everything to the table. The family began to gather, and a few people commented on how good everything looked, until father-in-law asks, "Where's the ham?" My husband explained that I wasn't comfortable making meat, especially ham since undercooked pork can especially be dangerous, and that instead we had a plant-based roast alternative, and father-in-law proceeded to make remarks about how they drove an hour for plants. Then, even the people who had made positive comments changed their tune, talking about how it was missing something, etc. At one point, mother-in-law said she wished they had had sister-in-law host. My husband snapped and told them to stop disrespecting the meal, and myself since I worked hard on it. Mother-in-law argued back that I disrespected them by not respecting their dietary choices and that she believed she was clear when she told me to prepare food for everyone. My husband told her that if she was going to continue to be disrespectful, that she could leave. Shortly after, everyone left, but my husband has been getting texts since about how my selfishness ruined Christmas, possibly the last father-in-law would be around for. I feel horrible that he's in the middle of all of this. This was my mistake, but at the same time, I was clear we are vegetarian and that I didn't even want to host. I guess I'm looking for an outside perspective. Am I the jerk? Edit. For the people asking if his family was aware, we just had a fully vegetarian catered wedding 4 months ago, so yes. Not the jerk. Hosts determine the menus. Guests do not determine the menus. You offered your best and your guests were impolite and demanding. It's good that your husband had your back. Do not host these people again. If they want a specific menu, let them figure it out. Not the jerk. 1, it's your house. You make what you want. They can make all the meat they want next Christmas at their house. They basically imposed on you anyhow. 2, you went out of your way to cook for them and probably pay for all the food too. You can make whatever you want. 3, you being vegetarian is a dietary choice. Them craving and expecting meat on the holiday is not. If anything, they were disrespecting your dietary choice. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the in-laws? Please let us know. Never force someone to host a meal that they don't want to. I threw away the elf on the shelf and ruined Christmas after my husband's prank. For context, this year was the first time we would try the elf on the shelf with our kids. We have 3 kids, Lucas who's 9, Andy who's 8, and Claire who's 5, where Lucas and Andy are from our past relationships. However, Miles, my husband who's 37, has accepted Andy as his, and so did I. Every Christmas is special for Andy. His birthday is on December 24th. His dad started a tradition where Santa would have consideration with him for being a kid of Christmas, so he feels magical and special. I always try to give him that. Last year, I left Santa Claus footsteps, ate a carrot, and grass that he left for Rudolph, stuff like that. My husband doesn't think it's a good idea I do all that for him, and I'm showing favoritism. So we should shut it down because of my ex's decision to create a tradition without considering my other kids' feelings. I disagree since I do consider the three of them mine. But he asked if we could do something else, like the elf on the shelf. I had no problem with it, but I didn't know how that works. He explained it to me quickly, and since he was the one who offered, I let him do it. We bought the cute elf. My kids named it Bob. Later, my husband explained to them that they should behave and never touch or hold Bob if they don't want it to be naughty. At first, it was cute to see them spy on Bob, try to see it fly each night. Andy was the most excited of all. I found him one night talking with it, asking it if Santa still remembered him. But my husband took seriously the behave or Bob would be naughty part. Lucas was his first victim after he didn't do his chores. The next day, his face was drawn on with Sharpie markers. Then Claire, who touched Bob, and her favorite onesie was destroyed. Apparently, Bob had cut some pieces of it while she was sleeping. Miles was having fun, but I could see my kids weren't. I talked to him about how we should lower the pranks. He agreed, but wanted to catch Andy since he hadn't broken any rules. I told him that Bob's supposed to tell Santa instead of being naughty. We argued, but he finally agreed. Fast forward, it's Christmas Eve, and in the afternoon, we had some of Andy's friends to celebrate his birthday. So the kids were playing in the backyard, but my husband looked sus. I decided to look for Bob. It was supposed to be in the kitchen, but it wasn't there. I asked Miles where it was, and he told me, no idea. I started getting paranoid, but Andy asked me if we could cut the cake already. I put my best face on and went for it. The cake was in a box, and when Andy opened the box, he started crying. I took a look, and it's ruined. Bob was covered in all of it, appearing as if he had been eating the cake. Half of the cake wasn't even there anymore. Miles started laughing, and so did some of the other parents. My blood is boiling, and I grab Bob and throw it in the trash. Then I grabbed Miles. We have a terrible argument. He calls me a jerk for what I did to Bob, that I've ruined it. How are we supposed to keep the magic with our kids if I wasn't supposed to touch Bob? Edit. Hi everyone. So the responses have been really overwhelming. I'm sorry it took me some time to answer. I was kind of avoiding the post. 1. Andy's dad is from Canada. He visits Andy every spring, summer, and on Christmas break. This year he stayed for his job, so he isn't an absent parent. 2. After Andy's birthday, I told Miles to get out of the house, and so he did. He spent Christmas with my in-laws. I stayed with the kids, and all of them slept in Andy's room. My kids didn't want to leave their brother alone. The next morning, we opened the gifts, and I made sure that Andy could feel special after what happened on his birthday. So I wrote a note from Bob, saying that he's sorry if he scared him and his siblings. He didn't do his job correctly, so now he would be flying to the North Pole with Santa. And when he asked if Santa still remembered him, he did. Santa was really happy to see him. 3. My kids and I are okay. We're sleeping at my parents' house, and we would celebrate New Year's Eve here too. 4. Yes, Claire was using the onesie while she was sleeping. My husband took the idea out of a TikTok. And no, Andy didn't do anything to be attacked by Bob. Not the jerk. He ruined the birthday party with his juvenile prank, as he most likely ruined the joyful and childlike spirit of the occasion for the 2 other kids with the other earlier stupid pranks. What a horrible Christmas tradition to scare your kids with. A doll that watches over them and exacts vengeance. I usually don't tend to say this, but this action on your husband's behalf is horrible and worth of divorce papers being delivered. Elf on the Shelf is supposed to be a tradition to keep the kids' spirits and hopes for Christmas, not something the parents can use as an excuse to be bullies with their kids. It's okay to joke with it a little, but he took it way too far. Kids remember this kind of stuff, and now Andy would have a terrible core memory of his birthday. Also, ask Miles why he was so obsessed on getting Andy. Like, that's what freaked me out the most. Please, OP, get away from this dude, not the jerk. Just so I'm clear, 1. You and Andy's father came up with something to take the sting out of your son having a birthday on Christmas Eve, something which must truly suck as a kid. 2. Your husband decides that this is favoritism. 3. Your husband uses a toy elf to start bullying the kids, destroying Claire's favorite onesie. What? 4. Andy's behaving himself, however, and therefore Bob is unable to do anything to him. 5. This so annoys your husband that he decides to ruin your son's 8th birthday by destroying his cake in an act of pure, unadulterated spite. OP, you're not the jerk, but my God, your husband surely is. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is her husband? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for answering the door to my in-laws with oily hair that's been wrapped in plastic wrap? On Christmas Day, my in-laws came around to see my partner, son, and I. We had no idea they were coming around. They had never mentioned it, and we had told them that we were wanting our first Christmas as a family to be quiet and just the three of us. We were planning on just hanging around the house, wearing PJs, eating takeout food, playing video games while son took a nap. As this was the plan, I had decided to do a heavy oiling on my hair and wrap it up in plastic wrap to keep the heat in. My partner is cool with me doing heavy oiling. Usually I wear it to bed with my hair wrapped in plastic wrap and my bonnet on top, and he had encouraged that I did a heavy oil during the day on Christmas. In the early afternoon, I went to the door and my in-laws were there. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, and brother-in-law. They had decided that we had already had the morning to laze about and that they had come around so that son could open his presents. Son is 7 months old. He has no interest in presents and has no idea what's going on, which is why we were having such a low-key Christmas. They weren't impressed that we weren't dressed, but even less impressed that I had such oily hair. Mother-in-law took me aside in the kitchen and went off on me for not taking pride in my appearance and for looking so slobby when I should have expected them to turn up. I told mother-in-law that she should just be glad that we had clothes on. Yesterday, we both received texts from mother-in-law and brother-in-law having a go for the state we were in, and for me having oily hair that was wrapped in plastic wrap as I looked ridiculous. Mother-in-law expressed her disdain at my comments. Partner messaged them back and told them that we are allowed to dress how we like in our own home, and if I want to oil my hair, then I can. Mother-in-law has been messaging me separately, telling me that I looked slobby and should be ashamed of myself, as partner shouldn't have to see me in that state. While partner is really supportive of what I do to care for myself, it's got me wondering if this was a jerk move on my part. Am I the jerk for answering the door with my hair heavily oiled? Not the jerk. Showing up without an invitation or any forewarning is very rude. Not the jerk. You're home and you didn't have plans, so you can do whatever you want. Your partner's support and responses are awesome though. Nice to see such a supportive partner on one of these for a change. Man tried to dine and dash. He left his jacket with his ID in the pocket. This happened just earlier today. Not to me, but to a server in a different section during our shift. It was the end of the lunch rush, and this man who looked around mid-20s came in alone, but said he was waiting for someone else. He ordered a beer and some wings to start. 20 minutes go by, and whoever he was waiting for still isn't there. He orders an entree anyway, telling us that he probably got stood up, his exact words. About halfway through his meal, he's talking on the phone. He gets up, leaving his jacket on the seat, and walks towards the front. He tells the hostess, "I'll be right back. I just want to take this call outside, but my jacket is on the seat." Then, without waiting for an answer, he walks out the door. 15 minutes later, he's gone and nowhere in sight. The hostess felt so bad, and she said something along the lines of, "I shouldn't have just let him leave, but I thought he would come right back since he left his jacket here." Immediately, me and the man's server went and found it. Lo and behold, we check the pockets and find some sort of card for his workplace with his photo, name, and work email. My coworker recognized his photo, so we emailed him and basically told him that if he didn't come back to pay for his meal, we would be calling the cops because we have security cameras that caught him. He was back within the hour. Edit. At the restaurant I work at, and a lot of the ones around us, people use jackets and bags and stuff like that as props. It's a pretty common dine and dash tactic in my area. I thought that was a pretty common thing in general, but I guess not though. He was also incredibly angry when he came in to pay, which I should have mentioned originally. But my son needs to watch Bluey. Last night, when I went to sign in to open Netflix, I found that my TV had been signed out. Went to sign back in and couldn't do it. It had been about a year since I had last signed in, so I assumed that I just forgot my password and requested to reset it. When I went to my email, I saw an email from Netflix this morning saying my password had been successfully changed. Obviously, red flag, so I went through all of our subscription services and updated passwords and changed my email password just in case. Got a call from my brother's ex-wife, let's call her Kate, about an hour ago. They've been divorced for over 4 years now, asking me why I changed my password. I didn't realize that she still had my account info, was a bit annoyed, and told her that someone had changed the password on me and that I didn't feel comfortable giving out my account info, especially not to someone I wasn't in contact with. Jumping back a bit, my in-laws are staying at our home, and at night, after everyone goes to bed, I guess we have 4 devices in our home running our Netflix account simultaneously. When she called, Kate explained how she tried to get onto our account on Christmas night and was greeted with the message that there were too many users on our account currently, so she couldn't access it. She got the idea that it would be totally fine with me if she logged into our Netflix account and changed the password so that her and her new husband could watch their show. Said this calmly, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. I nearly lost it. I have no idea how anyone would think it would be okay to change someone else's password because you're too cheap to pay for it yourself. I told her I don't want to hear from her anymore. I'm not giving her our info, and I hung up. 15 minutes later, she called my wife and asked for the Disney Plus password. I was lazy, and I had the same account info for each streaming service, and apparently she figured this out and was logged into several of our services. When I realized who my wife was talking to and what about, I motioned for the phone. Kate was just whining that she at least needed to have access to Disney Plus so her son, who's 18 months old, could watch Bluey, and that he just needed it to be able to get ready for bed. I told her to buzz off and hung up. Great way to ruin my mood for the night. Am I the jerk for turning down a place as my brother's fiance's bridesmaid and telling her I won't be attending their wedding? My brother is 13 years older than me, and I have known my whole life, all 19 years, that he would have preferred to remain an only child. We are not close. He's never had time for me, never wanted to be in my life or for me to be in his. When he moved out, he stayed distant from me. He'd speak to our parents, visit them, but it was like I wasn't there. Over the years, I got used to it. One time when I was like 12, our parents asked him if he would let me stay for a weekend because they were attending a wedding. He said no, but he didn't just say no. He was clear that he would never want that kind of contact with me. They argued back then over it, not sure how bad it got, but they never asked him again and nothing changed between me and him. It always stood out to me that he was almost disgusted to be asked and by the idea that he would need to spend some time with me. He never showed up to my birthdays, never got me anything for Christmas or my birthday. My parents were bothered, but always told me once we were both grown, our relationship would be more equal and could grow. I think they wanted to believe that more than they actually did. My brother has been with the same woman for like 8 years. I've met her a grand total of 2 times. Now they're engaged and everyone is all excited. His fiance came over while I was at my parents' house for Christmas and asked me to be her bridesmaid. She brought up how they needed to include me since all of her siblings were bridesmaids and groomsmen. I asked if that was the only reason, and she went silent, because she was asking a stranger for the sake of appearances. So I told her it was nice to offer and all, but I couldn't accept, and that I wouldn't be attending their wedding. She freaked out and went crazy about how my lack of attendance will overshadow the day, and sometimes you go for family, even if you're not close to or know the family, because family is important. I ended up having to leave my parents' house because they were also unhappy when they heard that I was planning on not going. They told me that he's my brother and I should be at his wedding even if I'm not a bridesmaid. Am I the jerk? Edit. Some stuff has come up commonly and I wanted to add some extra details. My brother is very close to our parents. He always has been, and they know his fiancée very well since they've seen her a lot. I was just simply never included in that. But my brother never appeared to have any hard feelings towards our parents. Only me. His fiancée has admitted she only invited me for appearance sake and that my brother said no to including me in his wedding party. My brother and I look very alike, which is a mix of both our parents. I've seen pictures of my mom while pregnant with me, so unless they really faked those, he's not my biological father. I've had more of a conversation with Redditors posting on this than I've had with him in 19 years. Not the jerk. He gets to reap what he sowed. I'm sorry your parents aren't so deep in denial over his jerk behavior. You, very literally, owe him nothing, although you are giving him the gift he always wanted, acting like he doesn't have a sister. It's probably worth it. Not the jerk. Every other, very good, reason aside, there's not a chance your absence would overshadow the day. If this is how he treats you and talks about you in your presence, I'd be willing to bet that plenty of the attendees don't even know he has a sister. Thank you for the invitation, but I can assure you that my brother will only be relieved by my refusal. Have a wonderful day and a long, happy marriage. And remind your parents that if your brother was clear on the importance of family and had treated you like more than an inconvenience throughout your life, you'd probably be going. Am I the jerk for telling my husband to buzz off over the finances? I, 40 female, work full-time. My husband, 46, male, is a stay-at-home dad since lockdown. Things were tight for a bit when he quit his full-time job and tried to start his own business. There were losses that caused debt. Finances have been a bit of a sore spot since his business failure. I've always made significantly more than him. I've always been supportive when he's wanted to change jobs, start his own business, etc. When he sent us into a death spiral of debt with a failing business venture that he refused to let go of, it was kind of a breaking point. He spent the majority of his time blaming me for our financial position, which was absurd as I was the only one bringing in money. He was spending it faster than I could make it. He briefly got a job, but then ended up quitting and staying at home when everything closed down. I was in an essential industry and had to go to work in person. Since he's been at home, he's been extremely controlling over the finances. He obviously gets all the mail because he's at home, so he opens all of the bills and then quizzes me over the charges. He claims it's to make sure they're legit charges, but that's complete BS. The conversations are usually like this. Him: "Is the $5 charge okay?" Me: "Yes." Him: "What's it for?" Me: "It's a Patreon subscription." Him: "What's the subscription for?" Me: "Why does it matter? I told you it was a legitimate charge." "I want to know what it's for." Do I go through all of your bills and ask you what every charge is for? He's speechless. Then the conversation will shift from making sure it's a legitimate charge to making sure it's a need and not a want. I'm sorry, but who the heck gave you the power to tell me I'm not allowed to get things that I want when I bust my butt every day to make a good living? This year, I brought in more than $300,000 before taxes. More than enough to pay off all of the remaining debt from his failed business attempt, with more than enough left over for all of our needs and quite a few wants. I lost it today when he was questioning me on purchasing clothes for our kids. Both recently had a growth spurt and they need some new stuff that were on clearance. I told him to buzz off, which I know is inappropriate, but I'm so sick of having to justify every single penny I spend, having him interrogate me with every purchase. I'm to the point where I want to get a secret credit card just so I don't have to deal with the incessant questions and outward displays of control from him. Am I the jerk? ETA, we've done marriage counseling. It helped in some areas until he decided he didn't trust the therapist anymore. Then the session stopped. Not the jerk, but that particular sentiment definitely won't do any good for your marriage. Neither will his misplaced guilt, which is now coming out as controlling behavior. Time for marriage counseling. It's an investment worth making. Not the jerk, but you all need to have a serious and candid conversation before this boils over into a divorce. Clearly, neither of you are okay with him not bringing in any income. OP, I'm actually totally fine with him not bringing in income. He's home with the kids and taking care of some of the household duties. Doesn't sound like it from your post. But either way, y'all are quibbling over $5 Patreon subscriptions when you make $300K plus a year. This is a little beyond one-off, am I the jerk, in my opinion. OP, well, we're quibbling over it because he's making an issue out of it. Am I supposed to cancel the subscription because he doesn't like it? We are more than able to afford it, and I use it for a podcast I listen to. The issue is that I have to justify all of my purchases to his satisfaction, but I don't say a word about any of his purchases. I don't care what he buys. Not the jerk. Sounds like it's time to, at the very least, separate finances. Might be time to just let the whole marriage go. Your husband is a bum and a controlling one at that. No, you did not reserve the shuttle. I work at a hotel near a major airport, so naturally we have an airline shuttle to take our guests back and forth. Our shuttle runs 24/7, but after the lockdown, we only have one shuttle, while before we had two shuttles to decrease wait time. Currently, it runs on a half-hour schedule, so it leaves the hotel on the top and bottom of the hour and picks up at the airport on the 15 and 45. The only way to be fair to our guests and keep the schedule accurate is to leave the hotel right on the dot, and we only wait for a few minutes if you call down ahead of time to let us know that you are running late. Because the shuttle only fits so many people, we tell our guests at check-in to sign up for a time slot so we can ensure we don't end up with 20 people showing up for a shuttle that only fits 12. Though we are not required to do so, most of us at the desk explain to the guest that they need to be in the lobby 5 minutes before the time they signed up for, as the shuttle leaves right on time and does not wait. Apparently, the FOM checked him in and didn't mention that part, which in my opinion was a mistake, but it's not something he requires us to do. And I'm the one who put in the effort to train my coworkers to do that just in case, as I'm not a supervisor and no one's required to take my advice and tell it to the guests even though it prevents this sort of thing. Today, a guest who signed up for a 7 a.m. shuttle came down at 7:03 a.m. I informed the guest that the shuttle had departed and he would need to wait for the next available shuttle. He said to reserve him another shuttle immediately, and I informed him that he would be signed up for the next shuttle at 7:30. He reiterated that he wanted to reserve a shuttle right now and that he had already reserved himself a shuttle for 7. I told him again that he would be signed up for the next available shuttle, which just got me another insistence that he had reserved the shuttle. I realized that he was under the impression that he was oh so special and the shuttle was leaving at 7 a.m. for him specifically, rather than leaving at 7 a.m. for our guests in general, because that's when it always leaves. I tried to explain to him that no, he did not reserve a shuttle specifically for himself that was guaranteed to take him when he needed it, but rather he just put his name down to let us know how many people to expect for the already scheduled departure. Of course, he's super special and important, so he kept reiterating that he had reserved the shuttle and therefore we needed to get another one for him immediately. I told him we have one driver, so there's no way to get another shuttle going right then and there for him, which was met with, "You guessed it, but I reserved it." "No, sir, you did not reserve it. You said you'd be here for the 7 a.m., and then you were late and had left." Oh, and his wife came down 5 minutes later, so even if he had bothered to let us know he was going to be late, we wouldn't have been able to wait that long for the entire party to be ready. I will say the one good thing he had going for his behavior was that he never invoked his status, highest status at our hotel outside of lifetime or owner status, but he did ask for the manager's card, and I'm sure we'll get a bad review out of it. Karen gets upset with me because I ate too much at her Christmas dinner. As a child, whenever I was invited to people's houses, my mom told me it was etiquette to eat the food they made. She would always tell me to put a considerable amount and eat all of it since it would be rude not to. First, she said it would be wasting food, and second, it would seem as if I didn't enjoy the food, which is mean since a lot of effort was put into making it. I've always followed this rule and thought it was true. If I cooked a buttload of food and no one ate any of it, I'd be heartbroken. My boyfriend of 7 months invited me to his family Christmas dinner. I've met his parents very briefly, but nothing too formal. Anyway, we get to the food and I was pretty hungry and everything looked really amazing. I made sure to fill my plate, but not overfill, just equal amounts of everything on the table. I ate it all, and to be honest, was pretty stuffed. His mother then asked me if I wanted seconds. There was still a lot of food on the table. I took her up on the offer and put a bit more of the pasta salad on my plate. My boyfriend did give me a strange look, but I thought nothing of it at the time. Dinner comes, and I chose to eat a slice of cheesecake. We then had coffee, all sitting around the fire and telling funny stories. Everyone seemed like they were in a very good mood, and everything was great. After everything, I was honestly so happy because I was worried about dinner and meeting his parents, but I thought that everything went well. We left his parents' house in separate cars as I came directly from my parents' house to him. We reach my apartment and I can tell he's totally ticked off. I ask him what's wrong and he just blew up in my face saying that I had no manners, telling me that he had never seen me eat as much as I did at his parents' house and that it was very embarrassing. After further prying, he said that in his culture, when you eat a lot at a person's house, it's disrespectful because you should never go to a house on an empty stomach. He said it makes a person look desperate. He said on the car ride home, his mom was talking about how embarrassing and unmannered I was to eat so much. I told him that she told me to put seconds, and he said that's done to be a good hostess, but a guest should never take up that offer. I explained to him my reasoning, and he called that BS. I honestly feel terrible, but told him if he explained to me beforehand, I wouldn't have eaten so much. But he said he thought it was common knowledge. It's been 2 days, and neither of us will really talk until the other one apologizes. I know it's petty to not apologize, but I sincerely don't think I did anything wrong. But I guess that's why I'm here. Edit. I've been debating on whether revealing where my boyfriend is from. I have been receiving a lot of comments, so his family is Arab. I myself am Hispanic. Not the jerk. That's so toxic. You didn't even know about these cultural rules. I hate saying break up with him, but break up with him. You were just trying to be nice, and you enjoyed the food. My sister ruined our Christmas by announcing her pregnancy. Way worse than it sounds. I, 24 female, am the youngest of 4, and I've never been particularly close to my eldest sister Jenny, 37 female. She started dating her now ex-husband Sam, 38 male, when they were in high school, so he's pretty much been around my entire life. Sam is a really great guy. He was an older brother to me growing up, and my other sisters and I all have a great relationship with him. Jenny and Sam have 2 kids together, my nephew and niece, who are 8 and 5. About 3 years ago, Jenny and Sam's relationship completely fell apart, and she left him and moved to a different city. I've heard both sides of the story, and I know I'm inherently biased against my sister because she left my ex-brother-in-law to raise 2 kids by himself. Things were pretty rough after she left, but we all pitched in and did our best to help with the kids. My sister and Sam eventually finalized their divorce, and she gave up custody of the kids and is very low contact with them. I know Sam blamed himself for her leaving because she had accused him of not loving her as much as he loved the kids, but the rest of the family were firmly on his side. He did eventually move on and started dating one of his close friends at the beginning of the year. Fast forward to 2 months ago, my sister moved back to our city with her new boyfriend. She's only been to see her kids once, supervised, and my niece almost didn't recognize her. My parents still wanted the opportunity to finally have Christmas as a complete family again. I thought the whole thing would be a disaster before it even began. I knew my ex-brother-in-law only planned to stay long enough to drop off the kids and say a quick hello to everyone else. In the 15-minute window he was at my parents' house, my sister announced that she was pregnant, and things went downhill after that. The kids were so confused, and my niece asked if the new baby would live with them. My sister laughed and said the baby would live with her and her new boyfriend. My ex-brother-in-law left with the kids in tow, and I kind of lost it. I yelled at my sister and called her selfish and cruel and a whole slew of insults. Anything I could come up with at that moment before storming out myself. My other sisters support my actions, but my parents are disappointed that I reacted that way and made a scene during Christmas. They're not demanding that I apologize or anything, but have put me on one heck of a guilt trip and want me to resolve things with my sister. I'm perfectly happy not being in contact with her given what she's put my niece and nephew through, but I do wonder if I reacted too harshly. Was I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your sister turned Christmas into a way to dunk on her ex and her own kids. The kids were so confused and asked my niece if the new baby would live with them. My sister laughed and said the baby would live with her and her boyfriend. This is the worst part. She told her own kids that their half-sibling wouldn't be staying with them and laughed at them. She's cruel and heartless. Definitely not the jerk. Seriously, how terrible of a person do you have to be to rub it in your own kids' faces that this new baby is wanted and they aren't? My heart breaks for those poor kids. OP, not the jerk. Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video. Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.